One, a two, a one.
It's time for the Better Horses radio show. So let's saddle up and ride as we explore the Western way of life, horses and cows, family and friends, a relationship with the land, and a relationship with God. It's all here on Better Horses Radio. Now let's hit the trails with the Better Horses team.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Better Horses Radio. I'm Ed Adams. And coming your way in this episode is a lineup of equine talent that crosses many states. And combined in one show, we have the aptitude of horsemanship that's very valuable to hear. So what you have coming into this edition is we have our first guest coming in. You'll hear from Phil Haugen, who is with Be Your Best Horsemanship from Weatherford, Oklahoma. Phil's passion lies in the sincere desire for our horses and riders to be very successful. Merle Arbo and I are going to give a heart-to-heart discussion with Phil as he gives us some inside tips of how to handle your horse. And coming up, Tammy Sronce. Tammy has won multiple world and national championship buckles in barrel racing and cowboy mounted shooting. Tammy's talent with horses is very impressive, but I'll tell you, she's dealt with a life-changing diversity that is truly amazing. And wrapping it up, Dana Hokana from California. One of the top female trainers in our quarter horse industry today. Looking forward to hearing from her at the end of this episode. But before we get started, I'd like to give a quick message to a dear friend who plans to inspire us from the Risen Ranch Cowboy Church in Carthage, Missouri.
Hey folks, it's always good when we can come together. You know what? I was reading my Bible the other day and something struck me I love God's sense of humor anyway. But the story is, Jesus has told the boys, the 12, to get in the boat and row over to the other side of the sea. And the Bible says that he went to the mountainside to pray. And he was watching them the whole time. Well, a storm came up out of nowhere, and water was coming in the boat, and winds are coming on, and they're just not making any headway. So he starts walking out to them on the water. And here's what the Bible says. It says that he almost passed them by. And that made me stop and kind of laugh. Listen, Jesus is right here in our storms. No matter what's going on in your life today, he's right here beside you. And he is not going to pass you by. What he wants is for you to call out to him, to reach out to him. So today, in your storms, just call out to Christ. He's right here, and he wants to climb into your boat with you and get you the other side. Hey, this is Steve Stafford. I'm the pastor at Risen Ranch Cowboy Church.
And in this segment is brought to you by Merck Animal Health. Unconditional commitment and continually innovate and improve the products and programs that impact the health and well-being of horses. And with us today from Kansas State University at the Veterinary and Health College, we plan to give you our equine tip of the week. And with us today, Dr. Adam Bassett. Dr. Bassett has his master's degree at the University of Nebraska, a doctorate at Iowa State University, and a residency in Oklahoma State University. I'm not sure what college football team he's with, but I'll tell you what, he's got a very knowledgeable amount with a master's, and I'm going to try to say this one more time, Doctor Theogenealogy. Is that the master's?
Sure. My residency was in theriogenology.
And with that in mind, and this is all a study of equine health, walk me through that master's program and more importantly, that term.
Sure. So the term theriogenology is a made-up term in veterinary medicine, specifically North American veterinary medicine, to describe animal reproduction. Therio is the root word coming from Greek for beast, and then gen is genesis, and then ology, the study of. So it literally means the study of the genesis of the beast.
And I thought the breeding program, since we're in that season, has been fascinating, but this has probably been one of the most scientific approaches we've ever taken to it. So one of the questions we have is, let's take a step back here in our breeding program. Is it me, or are we breeding more athletic horses than we've ever seen before in what you've seen out there?
Oh, sure. I think that's probably a fair assessment. Horses are getting more athletic. I think too, over the years too, the trend has been to have horses be bred for more specific purposes, so a racehorse, he's really specific to racing, for example. So whereas in the old days, a lot of horses, especially in the quarter horse world, would have been kind of an all-around animal that could race and then go move some cattle on a ranch or something, all in the same week. So
now you've been called out for a lot of reproductive systems, and that seems to be your forte in there. But talk us about the Kansas State University program and the breeding program that you're involved in.
What we do here at Kansas State is an all-around equine reproductive service that we have here. One service I'm hoping to grow specifically here is the stallion side, but we do all the mare work that you can think of as well, anywhere from general reproductive exams and breeding all the way on to some more advanced procedures such as oocyte aspirations, where we actually collect the eggs from the mare's ovaries, and then we can send them to a lab to do a procedure called ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. And that's literally where they take one sperm cell and inject it into the egg and then grow the egg into an embryo. We can do part of that procedure. I'd have to send the eggs to another lab to have the ICSI done, but we can aspirate the eggs. And then on the stallion side, we can collect for semen shipments, and we can freeze semen. Can do breeding soundness exams on the stallions and the mares as well. So yeah, we can do just about anything you can think of. I won't say every single thing, but just about anything you can think of reproductively for a horse.
Do you recommend, when we have people that want to hear more about the breeding program, can they contact you, or what's the best way to learn more about the Kansas State University breeding program?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways that people can learn more about the breeding program here. One of them would be to call the hospital and ask to speak to me. The other thing that they can do is get online, and I just finished developing a new brochure that they can look at online that describes all the reproductive services that we have.
Is there recommendations about timing and part of the seasons that you'd like to see that you become more successful in the breeding program that you see as the biggest challenge when breeding your mare?
Well, the process for breeding the mare is where you're following the mare's cycle and trying to determine when she's ready to ovulate, and then you breed her with the semen at the most appropriate time for the ovulation. So probably the biggest challenge there is the time of the season when we're doing that. So if it's the very first ovulation of the season and it's February, let's say, that ovulation tends to be less fertile than all the subsequent ovulations from that point. And so I don't recommend breeding on the very first ovulation of the season. If we're going to try to breed them early, I like to try to get them on the second ovulation. And then too, when we get closer to June and July, that's when it gets really hot out, of course, and it's really hard to get mares pregnant at that time of year. And so probably kind of the sweet spot for helping to ensure a pregnancy on your mare, timing wise, would be the beginning of March to mid-June. And so that's probably when I see the most success. So it's all a game of strategy and timing.
Doctor, can you walk us through the soundness exams when you're going into that breeding program and what to look for?
Sure. So a breeding soundness exam, part of the breeding soundness exam, for whether you're talking about a mare or a stallion, involves checking out their general health with a full physical exam and making sure they don't have various abnormalities that might make it difficult to breed. But then specifically, we'll focus on the reproductive tract of whether it's the mare or the stallion. And so one thing on the stallion side that we're looking for is to make sure that their reproductive organs are normal in their consistency, and make sure the stallion can produce high quality ejaculate of semen that will help to ensure that he can produce some pregnancies. On the mare side, something we'll look at there is her uterus, and make sure the uterus is anatomically fit to host a pregnancy, and make sure it's the right environment for a pregnancy. And there's various different tests that we can do to try to determine how well a mare may or may not be able to carry a pregnancy to term. Now, with these breeding soundness exams, it's never a definitive thing. Like in most instances, we're not going to say something like, oh, this stallion can never produce a pregnancy, or this mare will never be able to carry a pregnancy to term. We're just giving the owner of the mare or stallion an idea of how successful they might be for that season to help them make decisions for the breeding season going forward.
This gives you a clear-cut example of how complicated this really can be. And I appreciate you coming on the show, kind of giving us a kind of a pathway of what it looks like to have a male and female reproductive systems and everything that you have to deal with. Dr. Bassett, we appreciate you coming in. And if somebody wanted to get a hold of you or get a hold of the Veterinary and Health Center at Kansas State University, who do they contact?
They can call the large animal front desk at 785-532-5700. And then they can ask to speak to me, Dr. Adam Bassett, about any reproductive questions they might have.
Very good. Dr. Adam Bassett, we appreciate you joining us. And we'll be right back with more Better Horses right after this.
Internal parasite control is critical to your horse's health, but isn't always easy. Some worms are as stubborn as they are dangerous. Luckily, there's Panacure Fenbendazole from Merck Animal Health. It works in a powerful and extremely safe way, so it's tough on parasites but gentle on horses, making it a safe choice for foals, weanlings, and even thin or debilitated horses. Consult your veterinarian for assistance in the diagnosis, treatment, and control of parasitism, and ask how Panacure can become part of your deworming strategy. Learn more at MerckAnimalHealthUSA.com.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org. The Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
And welcome back to Better Horses, everyone. I can't tell you how excited I am to be bringing on our next guest as we try to pepper everybody with as much horse information as possible. Coming to you all the way from Weatherford, Oklahoma, we have a guy who's been with the industry for a very long time. He takes a very simple, common sense approach to training, which I personally love. If you haven't checked him out, he has probably one of the best podcasts going on that he breaks down the mechanics of how to ride and how to get better with your horse. He's produced over $1 million in earnings by horses in barrel racing, roping, and other performance horses. And I got to tell you, he has a very fundamental approach, training through understanding. Everyone, welcome, Phil Haugen. Welcome to the show, Phil.
Hey, Ed. Thanks for having me.
You know, it's great that you're on Better Horses. You're no stranger to this little platform here. We appreciate everything you do with our TV side, along with our radio side. But I throw this question at you every time because I can't tell you how much this has helped me in my horsemanship, is you breaking it down to a very simple term, the thinking side of a horse and the reaction side of the horse. So I'm going to throw that one at you first just to get our audience calibrated on how you basically approach the horse industry.
You bet. Yeah, that's a really good place to start. You know, when anytime we have our introductory meetings at our clinics, that's one of the first things we talk about because, you know, the biggest key to being able to communicate with an animal that doesn't speak English is to understand something about that animal. And number one is how they think. You know, so horses only have two thought processes. They're either thinking or they're reacting. You know, and both of those thought processes can be controlled by us, but it's as long as we know how to create some triggers or some signals to help control that thought process. Like a horse, the reactive side of their brain is just, you know, that is one of the skills, you know, one of the instincts that God gave them for survival. So when a horse is using the reacting side of their brain, you know, that's when they flee, when they fight, when they go into self-preservation mode. Most of the things that are undesirable, like kicking, bucking, biting, any of those kind of actions or responses come from the reacting side of the horse's brain, because that's the instinct they were given to protect themselves. Now, at the same time, if we help that horse understand when we ask for responses that there is always a release in every response that we ask for, we can use those same signals to help flip that switch back to the thinking side of their brain. And when a horse is using the thinking side of their brain, that's when we get those soft, supple responses. That's a huge key in horsemanship, because, foundation horsemanship, to me, the simple definition is just communication and leadership. Well, communication is all about what I call the signal before the signal, meaning the signal that your horse feels with the change in your body before you pick up the bridle reins. And that same signal a lot of times is what helps you flip that switch back from the reacting side of the brain to the thinking side. And so that's always a place we start with at our clinics and our events, because once you start to understand and read your horse, and understanding the thinking side versus the reacting side, it opens a lot of doors and it clears a lot of things up.
That's great. Hey, Phil, this is Merle here. It's something you alluded to a little bit, but I think if any of our listeners have seen it on television, you used the analogy, I don't want to go all Squid Games on you, but red light, green light. And you said if you use like all right, red light, or all right, green light, is that kind of the analogy you mean, the cue before the cue?
Yeah, it's kind of like the example I always use is like if you put someone in the arena, at one end of the arena, and I told them, when I say go, you run as fast as you can, just like you're running from a bear or a mountain lion. And then when I say stop, you stop, or I say turn, you turn. Well, even somebody that understands English, they can be running down through the arena, and the instant that I say stop or that I say turn, they can't stop or turn. It takes them a couple steps. But with the same example, if I have somebody and I tell them the same thing, when I say go, you run as fast as you can, just like you're in flight mode, and then I'm going to say, okay, stop, or okay, turn. Well, that signal before the signal, that warning, that okay, helps that person get ready to stop or turn. Well, that same signal when we're riding or we're in an event or whatever our discipline is, anytime there's going to be a transition, which is a change in speed or direction, anytime there's a transition, that horse has to have some kind of warning like, okay. And a lot of times, for me, it's always the change in my body before my bridle, before my hands, ask for a response with my bridle reins. So I don't know if that explains it well enough, but the signal before the signal is the one that matters with your horse, meaning the signal with the change in your body or what they feel when you're getting ready for a change. That's the signal that matters.
We talked about it many times. You're actually really good at mentoring the speed events. And when you're blending that reaction side and that thinking side, I can't tell you how many rodeos we've been to on a barrel racers where they just lost their horse on the first barrel, because you're really blending that thinking side and reaction side at the same time. Speed events are just a whole new level, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, the challenge there is, just whether it's the roping, the cow horse, the barrel racing, just pick your event. We need both sides of that horse's mind, because when I ask a horse for a lot of speed, I'm stimulating the flight response, right? We have to have that speed, but then at the same time, we have to be able to flip that switch back from the reacting side of their brain, which is the flight response, back to the thinking side, so that we can get a transition, a change in speed or a change in direction, or both. And it's an extremely challenging situation for a horse mentally, and so we got to be really, really good with our communication, because if we're not, we end up 100% in a leverage situation with our bridle rein. And when you do that, there's really no winner in that deal.
I think that's really neat and really introspective about how you can articulate that. But how did you discover that? And then how did you there's a lot of horsemen that do that naturally, but you take it to another level and break it down and put it into words. How did you come about this?
A long time ago in this industry, I knew that if I could figure out how to control speed and direction, I could survive. And so I used some exercises that helped me accomplish that. Now, I'll be honest with you, at first, when I was controlling that switch, being able to control that switch from the thinking side to the reacting side and the reacting side back to the thinking side, I didn't understand the thought processes, but I knew what I was doing was working. But then later on, when I understood the horse more and how their thought processes work, then it really started to tie together. And 95% of the people you talk to will say they get along great until they get to a certain speed. Well, that's because they get along great until they get to a speed where that horse flips the switch from the thinking side to the reacting side. And then the thing is, you got to remember the way horses are made, just the way God made them. When a horse flips that switch to the reacting side of their brain and goes into, say, flight mode, they're not thinking about the discipline that they're in. They're thinking they're running just like they're running from a pack of wolves or a bear, and so when a horse goes into flight mode, that's their defense mechanism to survive, so it just makes sense that you have to have some form of communication to help them come back to the thinking side, because once they come back to the thinking side, I always say then a horse is trainable. And you can ask them for a response and get a response. But when your horse is being reactive and they're using the reacting side of their brain, they're somewhat controllable, but I don't think when they're in that state of mind, we teach them anything.
Right. As a matter of fact, that's something just to get the basics out of the way. But I got to tell you, you bring up a Be Your Best membership and kind of like a mentorship. Can you kind of tell our audience what you're trying to achieve? I kind of like categorize it as training the trainees. Kind of walk me through how you got to the mentorship program. Yeah, our mentorship program just kind of evolved on its own from people having questions monthly. And we do a monthly mentorship program, or we have a monthly Zoom call, and we have some other material that goes with that. And then we do some mentorship weeks as well for trainers that come in and spend the week, and we work on not only horsemanship, but we work on personal development. We work on their business plan. And, it's just, they're just things in this industry that everybody that goes through this industry in the training business, we all kind of go through the same challenges. And so the programs I put together are just designed to help those that are coming up to hopefully take some, cut some years off their learning curve. The era that I came up in, there wasn't really any help, to be honest with you, Yeah. And so we all learned it the hard way. And anymore, these younger trainers, and everybody's younger than me anymore, there's a lot of information out there that can really help them progress faster, be more successful at an earlier age. And so that's what we're doing with our mentorship program. I like seeing people do good. Well, that's great. Before we let you go, Phil, I want to get you to comment on your program as far as your clinics go. You're all over the place, Nebraska, Texas, Virginia, South Dakota. You got a full schedule. I assume that full schedule is going to go right into 2024. They can look you up and even ask to host a clinic. Is that correct? Yeah, you can. Our website's philhaugenhorsemanship.com, and on our site, you can see our upcoming schedule for 2024 will be out in a couple weeks, and you can go on there, and there's a real simple application form if you want to host a clinic. We have some online courses. We have a lot of information on there, and then you alluded to it earlier. Our Be Your Best, it's free, and we put out a lot of good information on it. I feel like so. Yeah. It is. All you listeners, just help yourself. Yeah, it is definitely worth going to visit that and visit your website and actually jump on your clinics. I personally been to your clinic. It has been very helpful. I'm a big promoter. I appreciate you being on our radio show. And Phil, if they want to get a hold of you, they can just go to philhaugenhorsemanship.com. We appreciate your time. And as always, stay safe. Thanks, Ed. Y'all take care.
Good to hear from you.
Phil Haugen, everyone, from Weatherford, Oklahoma. Be your best horsemanship. Definitely one of the best as far as getting to your horsemanship to another level. Hey, everyone, the following Phil Haugen segment has been brought to you by Merck Animal Health. For vaccines, pain management, internal dewormer, check out Merck Animal Health at merckanimalhealth.com. Merle, it looks like we're going to take a break. And welcome back to Better Horses. Back with we appreciate you viewing Better Horses. And you can see us all on we'll be radio, right back TV, and our newspaper that we're excited about coming out. For more information on our entire platform, go to betterhorses.com. And in this next segment, we're going to be talking to someone that's truly amazing. And this has been sponsored to you by Kleinsmith's Western Outfitters. Kleinsmith's located in Higginsville, Missouri. They're going to gear up any cowboy or cowgirl in the Midwest. We recommend you check them out. They're at kleinboot.com. Again, that's www.kleinboot.com. And with us today, Tammy Sronce, who's a mounted shooting champion, also a communications and marketing director at Road to the Horse. And we have got a very special guest here as she's going to talk about not only her journey into the horsemanship, but also her journey that she's had in the marketing career. Tammy, thank you for joining us here at Better Horses.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So, Tammy, let's walk our viewers through your kind of journey as a horseman. Talk to me about how you got started and then how you got started in mounted shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. I came over from Australia. Obviously, I'm a little Australian. So kind of got the half Texan, half Australian accent going on, but came over in 2000 to ride cutting horses, actually. And was very fortunate to work for a really, really good trainer, Lindy Birch at Oxbow Ranch. Got a lot of championships, but I found a mentor in a really solid elite horse trainer, and I was very blessed to do that. So she certainly got me my horse start over here in the United States, and eventually I found myself in cowboy mounted shooting.
Not only just cowboy mounted shooting, but you became very successful at it.
You know, I'd like to say I'm quite competitive at anything. It doesn't matter if I'm beating someone home from town or we're playing Monopoly or I'm not good person to play with. I'll be really nice, but I'm really competitive.
All right, so you're in Australia, you come over to the States, you get introduced to the cowboy mounted shooting, you could become very successful, you win multiple championships, and then a life-altering event happens. Walk me through that.
You know, and I was at the point where I was debating writing a book about my story because in my mind, looking back at everything, it was kind of this rags to riches kind of, you know, I had a rough upbringing in Australia and I really just came over to Texas looking for a fresh start. So I figured I had won all my world championships. I was on top of the mountain and I figured this is the great ending to my story. And kind of living the life, clinics, showing, traveling around the country, you know, kind of being that hot person in the industry, sitting on top of my discipline. And 2011, hit by a drunk driver in Fort Worth, and it changed my life. I went from living on the road to not being able to leave my home, and it was pretty devastating.
This had to be a total change in your entire day-to-day. When you get hit by a drunk driver, what type of physical damages did you experience?
You know, and that's a great question because, like, looking at me, I would look fine. But I had a traumatic brain injury and a bleed in my brain, and that kind of let me develop a chronic migraine and occipital neuralgia, which is really just a fancy term for head pain. I was very sound sensitive. My speech was bad. My balance was bad. Kind of all the things that you would see with someone who had suffered a traumatic brain injury. So simple little things like washing my hair or just being surrounded by people was really difficult for me. And it took a long time to kind of battle my way back from that.
And the next question is, how long did it take you before you walked over and saw your horses again, or you wanted to get back into that environment?
The thing that I learned, and I wouldn't say it's just the American health system, it's probably any health system, whether it's Australia or not, but you really have to fight for yourself and be your own best ambassador. And I was kind of laid out to say, you know, with my neurologist saying, this is your story, this is your medication, and this is your life, and you can't run and you can't ride. but here's some prescriptions and see what you can do, you know? And that just wasn't good enough for me. You know, I loved my life and I was willing to fight for it back. So I took it in my own hands and kind of found a specialist down in Houston in a research group doing a new surgery and signed myself up.
And I'm sure your doctor just said, "Hey, you're fine. Go ahead and get on a horse and go ride again." I'm sure you've had some conflicts there.
I have, and the more TBIs you have, the more they get compounded. And I'd already had a few horse riding, so this one was quite devastating. But you know, the thing that I learned, when you define your entire life by one thing that's quite fragile, when that goes away, you're lost. For me, it was a cowboy mounted shooter. I was that cowgirl in the arena, and that's how I defined myself. And when I didn't have that anymore, you kind of go through this, so who am I? Like, what's my purpose? Like, what am I doing? If I'm not that, then how do I define myself? Looking back, I think I'm definitely a more rounded person of a lot of different hats now, obviously. So it's just definitely a personal growth journey for sure.
And I wanted to make sure that not only physical therapy that you had to go through, but you also had to go through a whole mental re-education program.
I did. I actually studied psychology, social work, first time around in college in Australia. So I kind of understood the importance of not just going to physical rehab, but kind of working and not letting myself develop that anxiety where I didn't want to go out and I was scared to go out. And I wanted to push myself to kind of get that life back that I had. So I really worked hard on both aspects of that.
So once you went through this entire change in your life, you suddenly become a pivotal point in the marketing and communications with a special event called Road to the Horse.
I do. My neurologist, when I was recovering from my TBI, told me to stay engaged with something. He didn't care whether it was a board game, whether it was Tetris, whether it was Lumosity, but I had to do something mentally stimulating to kind of connect all those pathways back again. So long story, I decided to go get my master's at CSU, which is my idea of fun, I guess. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great to have a master's in a field that I have my horse experience in, and then I would be a well-rounded professional in that industry. And so that's what I did. It took me 6 years to get through another undergrad and then a master's at CSU. But so if I can get through it with a TBI, that's proof that it's just a matter of persistence and anybody can.
You know, Tammy, it's truly inspiring because I know so many people that have accidents, not only, you know, away from horses, but on horses. And it takes them mentally so much to get back on that horse and the PTSD that it causes. You truly became an inspiration in this conversation. But before I, wrap this up, let's talk about the Road to the Horse, March 21st and 24th in Lexington, Kentucky. Can you kind of walk us through it?
Yeah, I've loved Road to the Horse. I've been with the company for over 10 years. Road to the Horse, I kind of explain it to people and non-horse people, like we take these untouched horses. They're domestic horses, but they haven't been trained. And we pretty much have the weekend to have the top and the world's best colt starters start these horses under saddle, and the audience witnesses that first partnership develop and that horse go out under saddle. So whether you know a lot about horses or whether you just love them and don't know a whole lot, it's a great journey, and those fans get to see every single minute that person spends developing that relationship with that horse. And it's just phenomenal what they can get done in a couple of days or 3 days.
So let's also remind our audiences, these are the elite trainers around the world. It's almost called the Olympics. So we have not only Ken McNabb from the United States, but we also have an Australian. We also have a Canadian.
Yep, we do. We have Donald Hancock from Australia. We have Tick Maynard from Canada, and Ken McNabb is our American competitor. And then there'll be a wild card thrown in there who comes from the wild card competition the day before. So, it could be anyone's game. There's a lot of circumstances to it, but we'll see who picks a colt and has the most success.
And again, that's just 4 days. And to prove your point, these horses have never been touched. And I believe they're coming from the 4-6s out of Texas. And these are going to be 4 days, and they're going to be amazed at what they can accomplish in just 4 days.
Yeah, absolutely. This year we're changing things up a little bit, and we're getting colts from the Pitchfork Ranch, which is a Six's neighbor, actually, from Texas. They have 165,000 acres out there, and a really, really well-known American historic working ranch. So we're excited to get some different colts in, and they're bringing 19 colts for this event. So there'll be a lot of options for competitors.
That's perfect. Tammy Sronce, thank you for joining us here at Better Horses. We appreciate it. We are going to look forward to seeing you at Road to the Horse. If you want to know more about Road to the Horse, go to www.roadtothehorse.com and get all that information. Again, that's going to be March 21st and 24th in Lexington, Kentucky. And it's truly a wonderful event. There you go. Tammy, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we're going to have more Better Horses Radio coming your way. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine at the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Hi, I'm Tommy with Heritage Tractor. Whether you're looking to maintain your yard or your whole ranching operation, Heritage Tractor has John Deere mower and tractor packages that make work fly by. With a variety of horsepower and attachment configurations, we have a package to best fit your needs and budget. To learn more about these exclusive packages, visit us in store or online at heritagetractor.com.
Legendary products, extraordinary service, that's our heritage.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com. Runny nose, cough, fever. It's flu season for humans and horses. Like human flu vaccines, equine flu vaccines must be updated to protect against the flu strains circulating now. Merck Animal Health's flu-containing vaccines include the most current flu strains, protecting your horse from illness and time-missed training because of it. Talk with your veterinarian about Prestige flu vaccines and learn more about the science of advanced protection at prestigevaccines.com.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes a barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses. I can't tell you how much we appreciate our viewers and our listeners, and also those that are watching our TV show and checking out our newspapers. For more information on Better Horses, check out www.betterhorses.com. And in this next segment is brought to you by Heritage Tractor, the John Deere dealer with over 18 locations in the Midwest. Whenever looking for a John Deere, check out heritagetractor.com. Our next guest here on Better Horses is Dana Hokana. Her success is in the show ring, and she's led her desire to share her knowledge in the equine community. And this is how she gets there, by winning strides. And that's how the series was born. And welcome to Better Horses, Dana Hokana. Thank you for joining us, Dana.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your program.
Well, we enjoy having you here, and we enjoy having a lot of people with your knowledge. And you've been doing this for quite some time. So talk to me about the show ring. Talk to me about horses that are in California, that's primarily where you're residing, all of your students, and exactly how you put your program together.
Well, I show basically all over the Western United States, really, and Eastern United States sometimes. But I have clients that live in Montana, different parts of California. They come in and ride with me or come to the shows. Our shows are big and growing, and our shows are full of excited people who maybe are new to the industry. There's a lot of novices out there, and a lot of good divisions. I think the ranch horse world is really popular, as well as regular quarter horse shows. And there's so many new people in the industry. And one of my kind of pet peeves or desires of my heart is to teach people to think rather than just about the competition or just the prize or just to get the good looking outfit or good saddle. How do we become a true horseman? What are the components? What are the foundations in really understanding your horse and being a horseman that we're lacking? And so that's a desire of my heart to spread that knowledge, because knowledge really is power. And so many people that come to me and come to my clinics and buy my products feel powerless or feel out of control on their horse. A lot of people deal with fear. A lot of people don't know where to go next, And, when I started out in the industry, I worked for horse trainers whose number one goal was being a horseman, understanding bits and bridles, understanding collection, understanding getting a horse broke. And I think that lost art needs to come back to the world. So I went off a little bit of your question, but that's what I see. And that's what the people I'm trying to help.
No, that is perfect. And we talked about over 9 million horses in the country today. We have only probably 15% actually go into the show ring. And with that in mind, there are a lot of people out there that don't know where to start. How do I get going? And some of the sins that we've seen in the equine industry is buying too much horse for your ability to ride. What are the type of things that we can recognize, you as a trainer, that you can coach these novices or amateurs to look out for?
I mean, that is so well said. Buying too much horse. See, people buy what they think they're able to ride or what their vision shows them. People buy, the dream horse, but maybe the dream horse isn't the ideal horse for their level. And the sad thing is, anyone can hang their shingle and be a horse trainer. And, sometimes you find yourself in the wrong place, getting the wrong advice because somebody wants to make some money off the deal and sell you something you shouldn't have. So my advice to the public is get a qualified professional. The Professional Horsemen's Association is a good group of people with the American Quarter Horse Association that you can get a list of names in your area. And those people are held to a bit of a standard, to where hopefully they're going to be honest with you. I guess that what my advice is, try your best to get the correct horse, then learn enough about that particular horse. And it's easy to think, oh, I rode all my life. I've just been off 10 years. I'm all good. But, you have to understand that when you get a new horse or you have a horse that might be too much horse for you, when you change programs, change environments, change even the size of the stall they're used to being in, change the bit, the bridle, the saddle, when you change the preparation, the pre-ride preparation, you might have a horse that you didn't buy, so it's important to learn what did they do to get their horse nice and quiet and ready for you to ride. Learn from the people that you bought the horse from long enough so that you feel that horse and are safe on the horse.
I think you tapped on a very important subject. It's easy to get a horse, and to maintain a horse is where all your cost is going to come in. And that's where I think a lot of people get burned out because they don't have the coaching, they don't have the discipline or what to do with that horse. And I think that's so very important. Your experience in boarding barns and your experience in the maintenance and custody of horses is just as important as learning how to ride these horses. And what do you find to be very successful, and what do you find to be very challenging?
what you said, number one, is just key. It's just totally key. People will maybe contact me, I bought this horse. It wasn't what I thought. And I'll be like, okay, how do you get it ready to ride? Or they say, well, they did have it in an acre pasture, but I've got it in a 12 by 12 stall. I'm like, okay, well, right there, this horse is used to burning off his excess energy. Are you reading him to see if he's ready to get on? Does he need lunging? Does he need turned out? How much energy does your horse have, right? And so learning to read your horse will make you successful. Also learning what it takes to be successful on that horse. And every horse is really different. Like people go, well, I heard about this great feed supplement that the girl at the feed store talked me into. It is really good stuff. And now my horse thinks he's an Arabian racehorse or a thoroughbred racehorse, and I don't know what the problem is. He bucked me off, and now I'm afraid to ride. And so I'm like, okay, let's go back to energy, how much energy your horse has, what kind of calories are you feeding him, feed, exercise, size of a warm-up arena, everything matters, and well, I picked this bit because the girl at the feed store liked this bit. Now the horse threw its head in the air and almost reared with me. What do you think? And they send me a picture. I'm like, might be too much bridle for your horse. You might have scared the heck out of it. How about this? Do you understand how many pounds of pressure in your hands? Do you know how to pick up and handle your horse and release? And they're like, well, no, he scared me. So I kind of pulled back real hard. He kept running backwards, then reared. I think I got a bad horse, and I'm like, okay. So people need the fundamentals. They need common sense and wisdom.
I love it. As a matter of fact, parlay that and segue that in what is Team Hokana and how can we learn more about that?
Well, I have a lot of DVDs and videos designed to help people. But really, as I said, I'm an advocate or a voice for the horse and the horseman. And I realized that people need something easy access and affordable. So I started Team Hokana Video Club. And there's over 200 videos. Now, they're not professionally filmed, but they're filmed with professional equipment on the ranch, maybe me giving lessons, me going over, a certain component or certain thing I'm working on. And they're categorized. So say they're in categories of body control, colt breaking, groundwork, preparing your horse for the show arena. And it is, anywhere, anytime kind of thing. People will email me and say, I watched it on my phone while I'm riding. And then I go do the exercise I learned. This is helping me. And it's, $19.95 a month. It's easy access. And it is a great resource because that's the other problem with people getting horses. They get their horse and then they're like, okay, now what do I do? They're left out in the cold. And I mean, you need someone to follow you and help you along. The other problem is anyone can hang their shingle and say they're a trainer. And we're now in the world of the internet, right? So nobody has to have good qualifications to put up a video and get you, hooked into watching what they're doing. And maybe what they're doing is going to get you hurt, maybe not. I mean, technique is something that you need to evaluate if this makes good common sense. Am I ready to step out and do this round pin work? Or is this above my head? Where am I at? And you need to be honest with yourself because this isn't like a new motorcycle toy or a little, yard toy. This is 1,800 to 1,500 pound horse. And they can be dangerous and you need to learn what you're doing. And when you conquer that, when you're one with your horse and you develop that teamwork, I'm telling you, it's the most beautiful experience in the world to have a horse. And that's just so exciting. And for the people who want to show, when you put some fundamentals down and you learn to ride correctly, you go and you get goals in mind. Maybe people buy a horse and they dream of going in the show arena, but maybe they don't feel good enough or they don't feel like, oh, I could never belong or I don't have the money. And I say hogwash to all that. That's not true. I've helped people start at any level and go to their dreams, and build that confidence to do it.
I think you hit it right. Professional, qualified horseman is key when you start into this program. Before we wrap it up, can you tell them how they can contact you and then about your website?
My website is www.hokana.com, and Team Hokana Video Club is teamhokana.com. There
you go.
Two separate websites. Our social media is Dana Hokana Performance Horses, and I put a lot of little mini clinics on there, video tips, and just sometimes articles, tips.
Well, we appreciate you joining us here on Better Horses. We have to have you back because, as you said, we can unpack a lot of this information that you have in your head, and we appreciate you coming on board. Thank you for joining us, Dana Hokana, and we look to have you coming back here in the future.
Thank you so much. Great talking to you.
And Dana, we'd like to thank you for joining us here on Better Horses. You know, folks, this is our show. We thank you for listening to us for a full hour of Better Horses. But more importantly, we want to thank all the good buckaroos and buckarettes. Mind your moms and dads and be brave, but don't take any chances out there. Until next time, I'm Ed Adams. Happy trails, and always ride for the brand.